and welcome back. We're picking up where we left off last time in the Long Dark. We're still in the search for whetstones. I think a couple more places we can check on the way back to camp off or to the coastal highway. So we're not going to take the shortest route back as a side effect. Because one of the places I can go check is Pleasant Valley. It's been a while since we've been at the Pleasant Valley. And Pleasant Valley is a place where we've done inventory triage before, so there may be some whetstones or something like that I've dropped to save inventory space. Well, maybe it isn't surprising. Maybe I have gone through all the whetstones at this point, because we have been playing for quite a bit at this point. 290-ish plus days in on Interloper, so maybe we have gone through all the whetstones. If we have, it's not the end of the world. We can just make more makeshift axes and makeshift knives. Just then that means it's tedium to go out to one of the forges to do replacements when they wear out. I think you can also trade for whetstones. I haven't had them offered yet. I'm not sure what trade level they appear at. If you're trying to maximize trade leveling, you don't do what we're doing, which is do really big trades. You do lots of little trades, usually, is I think what the meta has been suggested to be. So a little bit of a meat pile here, and decided it would be a good opportunity to feed the character on one of the meat piles I forget about. Yeah, usually forget that one's there. That one is probably a wolf we harvested. Or maybe a deer? I think that might have been venison. I tend to remember where the big bear piles are. I don't remember where the lesser stuff is all the time. And having been in this game world for 200 and almost 300 days, we do have little piles of opportunity harvests around. So my original plan was to go eat some meat at the bear kill, most recent bear kill we've made here in Mystery Lake. But after finding that meat pile, I don't need to stop there anymore for meat, so we're going to push on to the nearby cabin here. We're going to take a quick check. I'm pretty sure there's no whetstones there. There should be a bear hide, but no whetstones. And a lot of guts. Lots of guts. It's been the place where we've dropped off, I think, 3 bear kills worth of bear hides and meat. Or bear hides and guts. The bear hides we've since used most of. There's only 1 bear hide there, but there's still a lot of guts. Usually when you use the bear hide, you use like 1 hide and 2 guts. So the guts kind of pile up over time.
Never felt so cold in my life.
That is the thing I bring up every time we harvest a bear, is the hide is the valuable part, the guts are kind of, yeah, if you can get them. You want the hide, you want the meat, the guts are kind of the bonus prize. If for no other reason than the sheer number that you get, they start to pile up over time. Oh, those are bunny. No. Well, that's a ptarmigan. This is a bunny. Also take a moment here to warm up. So yeah, we have bear hide that isn't quite cured, and deerskin pants that we're not going to interact with. Some wool toques that when we left them here were pretty good, but we just got to upgrade it to. We do need to use a moment to warm up, and that's probably a good time to take a moment to do some repairs. get our gloves replaced, or get our gloves upgraded. And that also spares us some weight, because they're not taking any space in our inventory. So yeah, quick check over here basically said, no, we do not have the whetstone here. Unless I find a whetstone before we head out to Pleasant Valley, we're going to head out to Pleasant Valley. Both the farmstead and the community center might be places where I may have left whetstones in the past. Granted, if I left them there, it would have been like hundreds of days ago when I thought whetstones weren't important. And they're still not that important. They're basically, each whetstone allows you to sharpen a tool to the equivalent of like 0 to 100%. This late in the game, at least. So they have like the repair value of, let's repair a tool. So that makes them worth, what, somewhere between 1 to 3 pieces of scrap metal and a couple pieces of cloth. Which is valuable, right? Scrap metal is not something I'm going to be hauling around. And cloth is, well, granted, both scrap metal and cloth are renewable. They're just not stuff that are highly renewable. Trying to keep my head on the swivel to see where the bear is. This bear, the den of which is right over there. This bear I haven't killed recently, so it's probably still up. And I have been mauled by it multiple times, so this one has managed to get a jump on me a couple times in this run. Often around this corner. Usually in the fog, so I don't think it's going to jump me right now, because we would see it. Oh, there it is. If you're wondering why I wasn't walking on the road, it's because I would have probably walked into the bear right there. Had I been walking on the road. Let's just get away from the bear. I think I have enough of a gap that he won't charge me. The bears are vaguely like wolves, where they will follow you if they are close enough to know where you are. So it is somewhat worth opening the gap with them. They will not follow you if you don't want them following you. But unlike wolves and deer, they don't hunt any of the other game in the game. They won't hunt the rabbits, they won't hunt the deer. Though, unlike wolves, which will 100 to 0 you, the bear usually don't. They do a lot of damage, they do like 50 to 80% damage before mitigation. But they don't have the ability that if you don't know what you're doing to 100 you. They will maul you, they will leave you bleeding, they'll damage a bunch of your stuff, but they usually won't outright kill you, unless you're already low. And even some modest gear can reduce that. So I think at my gear level here late game, we'd probably take like 40 to 50% damage. Which obviously being at full health means we could get mauled. It wouldn't be a fun experience, but we could be mauled, and it wouldn't be the end of the world. Though unlike wolves, you don't really fight
Need to find some place to
back.
escape this cold.
Right, I'm gonna check these cabins. And because you don't fight back, there's no... You don't, like, cause them to bleed or get them wounded or anything, so you don't kill them in struggles, to my knowledge. Whereas the struggles with the wolves, if you survive the struggle with the right equipment, you actually straight up kill them. Okay, we got a ruined one here. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for one we can use. So it's probably this cabin and the other one across the way that would have it. But we'll check all three.
Can't feel my hands.
So we had some guts here. But no whetstone. Also have a guns. If we were trying to maximize the gun skill on Interloper, that's what we need to read. That might still be a little bit too early to do guns. Or the advanced guns. But the regular one. Because basically for the gun skill, there's a low skill book and a high skill book. The high skill book takes long to read. Actually, we'll take that bit of fabric. And then maybe take the moment to warm up. Takes less, or the low skill one takes less time to read and provides you less skill. But we can only be ready to get up you to a certain skill level. The high skill one provides more skill, takes longer to read, but can take you all the way up to level 5. I think it's only the rifle gun one that has that dual poly where there's 2 different levels. Everything else is 1 read per book, roughly the same time, roughly the same skill points gained. I think that's a wolf in our path, which isn't super great. I'll have to see if you can sneak past that wolf. You can kind of see the moose markings on the trees here, so I think at some point during the wildlife refresh they changed Mystery Lake moose spawns. So we went from having 1 at Trappers to 1 over here. And honestly, that's the only one where I think I've reliably seen it since the wildlife refresh. But then I haven't really been hunting for moose, so I hunt for like 1 or 2 for making moose-hide satchels. But once I have the moose-hide satchels, I'm less worried about finding more. Because we're still actually on the first moose-hide satchel. We have a moose hide for the second one, but we haven't had to make it yet. Little low on water. The water's pretty easy to make more if you just have to set a campfire up for it. Gonna check both of the trailer cabins here. We're gonna check the dam. If we don't find a whetstone in any of those, we'll travel through the dam and head over to Pleasant Valley Farmstead. If we don't find anything at Pleasant Valley Farmstead, well, even if we find something at the Pleasant Valley Farmstead, we'll probably head over to the community center on the way out. Basically taking the long way back to Coastal Highway. Okay, torch here. Looks like no whetstones. So we have a wolf hide, guts, and a hacksaw. Everything else has been worn out here. Okay. Oh, and we have an almost worn out survival blow if we were desperate for another survival blow. It was the old one, I think. The current one is still up at 69%. So we got plenty. Over to the dam next. You know, had I found it, I'd probably be picking up that firewood there, so that we could take it with us back to coastal, but we're not taking that path back, and don't want the extra weight right now. So if I intentionally left it in here for recovery later, I'm going to be up here in the early part. So actually, let's survival bow, storm lantern, in case I need to pass through and I don't have sufficient oil. Because one of the changes in here made it real dark. And yeah, didn't leave it on the workbench. So it's the afternoon, so we're not going to have any problems with Aurora popping up while we're walking through here. So it should be a nice, safe trip. This room's reasonably bright, so we'll save a little bit of lantern passing through it. Leave the upper dam. This is when we swap back to the lantern again. And to be fair, this is a place where you can find things like arrows and stuff on lower difficulties. It's just here in Interloper, it's pretty bright. This is the way out. Good. We're in later afternoon, so it is starting to warm up. Hopefully the weather holds. We've definitely had the weather turn bad in Pleasant Valley before. Doing a little bit of a billy goating trick here. Get up and over here. Less important on this difficulty, but you can see there's a wolf down here, down there. Had we just gone down to the bottom of the switchback there, we would have run into that wolf. On Stalker, I tend to find there's like 3 or so down there. Well, a lot of my experience with Stalker is also before the wildlife refresh, so maybe there's less down there nowadays on Stalker. But it's pretty common to run into wolves if you went down the switchback there instead of billy goating up and over like I did. By going one extra switchback back, we've managed to avoid all the wolves in the zone. I haven't been up there on this save, to be fair. If you're wondering what those crows are circling over, I think they're circling over a human corpse. Might be, like a deer carcass or something. I'm not likely to have left anything in this cave. This is a cave that I have occasionally stopped in for warming up in, so we're gonna take a quick pick in here. No, say I haven't left anything in here, but a little bit of water is not bad. We were low on water. And if we were looking for rabbit hides, apparently we've got some cured rabbit hides in here. Or if we wanted a book to decorate a location. I do have enough Old Man Beard Lichen now to do 2 antiseptic bandages. Or antiseptic treatments. So I don't need any more for the moment. That was a definite pain last stream, which was we got a bleeding wound and didn't have an antiseptic to treat it with. Well, didn't have an antiseptic to treat it with until after I already had treated it with antibiotics. Which at that point was a little bit late to use Gilman Beard Lichen. Of course, had I just continued with what the original plan was, which was go out to Misanthropes, I would have found some. Was where, in the end, I found it. Yep, we're in the afternoon again. Afternoon is good weather, so we make good traveling time. Because we don't have to stop to warm up. Parts of this cave are bright enough to pass through. Other parts we probably will start up the lantern. Oh, they've changed something that's made that card a lot harder to see. Interesting. Traveling through the cave here over to Pleasant Valley. If I kept my head on a swivel a little bit better, we could probably grab some coal as we travel through here. But I don't need any, and if I don't need anything, it's just extra weight at this point. As I said, there's a little bit here. So if I end up coming across just convenient coal, I'll grab it, but we're not going to go out of our way for it. Oh, there's more coins in here than I thought there was. Quite a few in here. Of course, there's 165 in the game, of course. Oop. Sorry, Twitch Chatter, if I didn't respond to your chat promptly. I am currently looking for a whetstone. Thought I had some in the camp office, and there wasn't any in the camp office. And I thought may have had some in the trapper's cabin, but I don't have any there either. Checking a couple more places before we go back to what is basically our main base in Coastal Highway. This one apparently have worn out most of the ones that I was carrying around with me. We're not desperate for one. This is Interloper. And the components you use to make makeshift axes and makeshift knives are to some degree renewable. But every whetstone is basically a full repair of a tool. So that makes it worth a few pieces of scrap metal and a couple pieces of cloth, I think. I forget the ingredient list required for makeshift axes and knives. They're a little bit more valuable on Stalker, where they can be used to repair the professional ones. So I can take a moment here to actually check what the recipe is for the axe and knife. 5 scrap metal, 1 cloth for an axe, or hatchet, 3 in 1. So yeah, the whetstone's worth like 3 to 5 pieces of scrap metal. And at the moment we've worn all the ones we have out, so I need to go get some more, ideally. And there's a couple of different places where I may have left them. Though some of the less exotic locations I'm starting to have already searched at this point. We've got... I'm going to go check the farmstead out here in Pleasant Valley. And then we're going to go check the community center on the way back to Coastal Highway. If neither of those have one, I do have a spare axe already made out in Desolation Point that we'll go pick up. Because I'm not like emergency desperate for one. We got like 50% condition on our current axe. But I'd like to know where one is before... well, or not know where one is. I would like to have the uncertainty go away. Because I'm currently working on a trade that involves a lot of wood chopping. Which I probably, in hindsight, probably shouldn't agree to doing quite so much. Though, the 120 matches will be nice. I've got the rope installed here. Okay, so we can shed a little bit of weight. It's gonna be on the rope to save us a little bit of time getting to next place we're heading. Ruined leather shoes. Yeah, don't think there's one here. Let's turn the lantern anyway, just do a slightly more thorough check. I don't think I would have intentionally left it here, to be fair. Okay, let's see if we can do a little bit of inventory triage so we can get to that rope. Saves about 15 kilograms of weight, or 150 grams of weight. Leave a stick behind. There we go. Actually, let's go on the rope. A fifth place that we're not going to check this stream that might have one is I might have one up at, I really gained just enough weight that we can't do it on the walk over there. Apparently. There we go. This is a sense. I'm not too worried about being overweight. Is Trapper's Cabin up in Timberwolf Mountain. It's one place that might have whetstones. We're not going to go up there and check because it's fairly far away. That's one place where I tend to do inventory triage, so I would have left things like whetstones and stuff like that behind. So that a future me, say, climbing up to Timberwolf Mountain, whether I'm going up to the gold mine or not, could have some of that equipment that they'd like up there. Not have to necessarily bring it up the rope. Yeah, the next place we're going to check is the farmstead. Farmstead is one of my sort of regional bases. So it is a place where I do inventory triage and leave things behind like whetstones if I'm over capacity, just to save some weight. This is where leaving lists behind for yourself to remind you where you're leaving things is useful, but then you have to take the time to make those lists, which I did, well, I haven't even spent the time to go check the lists, so maybe I did leave a list of where I left them, but I don't remember, and I don't think I did. And honestly, you tend not to go through whetstones that quickly. It's just that we're harvesting a lot of firewood right now for the trade. And as a side effect, you go through a lot of whetstones quickly, that sort of way. But yeah, if you're still watching Twitch chatter, I hope I answered your question by now. I realized I wasn't necessarily paying the best attention to Twitch chat. I usually try to keep the content interesting for people who are not necessarily watching it live in sync. Because it is being recorded to upload to YouTube. So if you're watching this YouTube, I hope you're enjoying. Or if you're watching it on Twitch, I hope you're enjoying. Either way. But yeah, there's some degree of the expectation I am talking to myself. It's most of the most recent videos at this point. The run's been going long enough that it's quite a intimidating YouTube playlist at this point. we have flares here. Guts there. Some scrap metal there. Cloth. Some torches, some ruins, some not. Don't think I'm seeing any whetstones. It's kind of what I was expecting. So I was hopeful to potentially be wrong. And the land finder gives a little bit better view. Cloth. All these tools and stuff to do some crafting. Some sewing kits. So yeah, that's the sort of sewing conditions I'd leave the, oh, there's a whetstone. One whetstone. Okay. It's good to know I had some here. By some, I mean one. Trying to decide if I want to keep moving or stay here for the night. Thinking of keeping moving. We're getting a little bit heavy, but we also don't have any food prepared here. Yeah, I haven't pre-positioned any food here. We're not in complete desperation for more food, but... At the same point, I would not necessarily want to consume my proverbial travel rations. I do know I have some food pre-prepared in Pleasant Valley. There's possibly some near the community center, but I've got a big pile in the cave near the road up to the connecting mine. That's the direction we're going to head. Hoping to at least get to the community center before we want to give the character the daily nap. The weather's also pretty good, so it's good traveling weather, even if we are going to be walking a little slow because of the low fatigue. I believe this is a human. Crumpled up against the side of the hay barn here. The hay lean-to. Nothing on him, we've already searched him before. We don't need the feather, so we'll leave the feather behind. And a little hands-free here for the walk. Next major stop here is going to be the community center. I think I left a little bit of a meat pile out in front of it. If I didn't, we'll have to push forward past there to the cave where I've got the meat stockpiled up. Oh, hello Raid. Hope you enjoy the stream. The run's going well. Forget how many days are in. We're at least 290 days into an interloper run here, so currently in the process of doing a major trade with Sutherland, which required me to harvest 120 cedar firewood logs and another 20 fir firewood logs. So mainly the intent of this stream has been locating some whetstones so that I have the whetstones to repair the axe as I go chopping the firewood. As you might imagine, 120 pieces of cedar firewood is a lot of logs. Yeah, well, it's a pretty big trade. It's like 10 things of matches, 10 things. Oh, I forgot what I'm trading for. When I get to the camp office, not the camp office, the community center, I'll bring up the trade list. What I was trading for. I think it was like, might have been like 10 carrots or something. It was a big order. It was like 10 things of X, 10 things of Y, 10 things of Z. So it was a really big trade. So at this point, the stream is going on for about an hour and 20 or so minutes, where I basically wandered around. I assumed that I had some whetstones at camp office. Didn't end up having any at the camp office. Then I went and checked the trappers. Didn't have anything there. I did find one at the farmstead we just left. So I have the one whetstone. That's probably enough to complete the trade. We still got like 60-something units of firewood to chop up, but that shouldn't be too hard to do. We're working a little bit slow because we've got about a full load without accounting for the fatigue. Yeah, there's always the milling machine. We haven't used that in the run yet, though I do have the one in Bleak Inlet. Yeah, the one in Bleak Inlet is unlocked. I've unlocked the keypad there. So the milling machines allow you to repair certain tools. So the makeshift tools, for example, for the cost of 1 piece of scrap metal during the Aurora. They're not necessarily the nicest places to be. There's been a couple run-ins where we were mapping, because we did 200-something days we were running this run. We did do Faithful Cartographer, so we did have a couple run-ins with Timberwolves out in Bleak Inlet. Roundabout where we'd actually have to go over the milling machine, so that's been the most locally place I've been mauled by Timberwolves. Normally they just nip at you, but if you get a little too close to them, they'll actually engage in a full struggle with you. Yeah, the wolves. That's why I'm more interested in finding some whetstones than worrying about using the milling machine. Plan B, if we weren't able to find any whetstones, I did at one point accidentally make a second makeshift axe, so I could always go pick up the second makeshift axe. If I arrived at the conclusion I needed to completely wear out one of the axes. Oops. He's in front of us. Okay, safest way to get past him is the lighted torch.
Look for shelter.
Okay, I'm not sure, and I can't see from this distance. I think I left a little bit of meat pile out in front of Community Center here. Did I? If I did, I ate it at least. Okay. Got some ruined potatoes, some ruined... Oh, not quite ruined carrots. The carrots apparently kept pretty well. Potatoes didn't, though. Fuel and coal, so if I wanted to cook some of the food in my backpack, we could pretty easily do that. Okay, no meat here. So, before I go off wandering off after some meat, let's go ahead and bring up that trade I was talking about. So yeah, we're 296 days into an interloper run. This is the big trade I was working on. So we've already got all the raw meat put aside for the all mill flour. Got all the water delivered. Got the harsel plants for the wood matches. Just got to get the firewood at this point. So another just short of 80 cedar firewood and another 8 fir firewood for the trade. And then that's going to be a pretty big trade, right? So that's 10 brand new carrots, 10 brand new potatoes, 10 bags of flour, and 10 boxes of matches there. So I kind of made that a difficult trade to myself by setting up a really big trade.
I've never been so hungry in my life.
Okay, hopefully we don't run into the bear. Don't mind Will, he just wanders Great Bear playing Lumberjack. Yeah, we got a lot of lumberjacking to do. Will McKinsey here has some lumberjacking to do. So to be fair, he mostly chops off the falling limbs and not the not chopping up the actual trees.
I'm so tired, I could just lay down right here.
I'm not worried about taking a little bit of condition damage here because we're at full condition. And obviously we're going to need to sleep, which is going to get some condition back. I'm going to push through. I know there's a cave nearby where I've got a pile of meat. I'm going to eat some meat in that pile. Then probably wander up to the transition cave, back to Coastal Highway, and we'll take the 10-hour rest in that cave. Okay, eat one of my emergency cattails so we don't lose well-fed. Oops. Didn't mean to throw that torch yet.
All I can think about is food.
Yeah, there may be a few ender logs. We've been through that cave a couple times. So I may have picked up some of the logs and fuel and stuff like that and moved it around. Oh, and you're saying in the cave in Timberwolf Mountain. The transition cave, I think, might also have some as well. We're going to take a transition cave over to Coastal Highway. We're not going to go up to Timberwolf Mountain today. Although I wouldn't be surprised if I had more whetstones up Timberwolf Mountain. Something I may have left behind coming down from Timberwolf Mountain. And I'm not sure if the well, the indoor stuff doesn't always respawn when it comes to logs and stuff. Sometimes be single use. Yeah, choppable logs. Yeah, there's definitely lots of different places. I think there's lots of different types of logs as well. I know the branches are usually what I harvest. Not the branches, the limbs. Well, I sometimes harvest the branches as well. They just get harvested by hand and not with the axe usually. Save a little bit
I'm
of
gonna need to eat soon.
condition on the axe. But yeah, most of what we've been harvesting, because at some point we've got to deliver also to the trader, right? So we don't necessarily want to harvest it out here, because it's a bit of a walk from here to the trading location in Coastal Highway. A lot of the ones I've already harvested have been out on Misanthrope and Jackrabbit Island. Those are pretty convenient for moving to the trader, or to the fishing hut, to be fair, which is where I do my fishing. And then we did harvest some around the Coastal Highway garage. They're not usually near the garage, but they're in the general area of it. Here's the cave we're looking for. I'm trying to mentally decide here if I want to walk up to the coal mine, or if I want to have the character take a nap here. Just to get a little bit of fatigue back. Okay, if we want to keep this ignition, we need to change torches. And some of the, whoops.
Cold is making my head feel
Okay,
thick.
well, we're not keeping that ignition. Because I delayed a little bit too long there with the torch swap. And our character nice and fed again. Oops. You can find that campfire we got set up. Not let out of the cave with too many. Now let's show off. This is always a cool thing I like to see. I don't do it very often. Oops. If you have a lit match, and you start a fire with it, your character actually throws the lit match in the fire.
Come on.
Not that we need the water, but I definitely need to take the moment for the character to sleep. So we can get some decent time getting up the hill here. Okay, and looking at the time, I should put a part break in for the YouTube. So I wasn't actually expecting that fire to burn out so quickly, but it did. Water boiled at least. So if you're watching on YouTube, there will be another part up tomorrow. We're going to go ahead and record one more part today. If you're watching on Twitch, feel free to hang around. I'm just going to go ahead and start and stop the YouTube recording. So I'll be right back if you're watching on YouTube. Well, if you're watching on YouTube, there'll be another part up tomorrow. If you're watching on Twitch, I'll be right back. So until the next part, wish you all the best of luck and good time. Catch you all in the next part. And bye for now.